So, guys, I want to talk about AEW, and I want to talk about Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay. So, I'm going to do two separate videos for you, and I'm going to talk about, the reasons why Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay should walk out of Forbidden Door as AEW champion. So, I want to start with Swerve Strickland. That there's going to be a couple of things I'm going to say. Is that first of all, Swerve Strickland has been a 9 p.m. champion, and what that means is that he's usually featured at 9 p.m. on AEW. He's not been living up to his full potential as a champion, and really he's been playing second fiddle to the EVP feud. So what that really entails is that he's not been given the chance that he really deserves, really. So honestly, give him like a stretch from a Forbidden Door to from Forbidden Door all the way to Wembley Stadium, and you actually do something where he is like the champion and he's like in charge of the show and all that, and and make him like the main event, really like make and see what happens. Are they going to get boost in ratings? So it's really about giving Swerve a chance, really. The next thing that I would say is that I would that if you want to do a match, I would honestly do a fatal four-way at Wembley Stadium. I think it should be Ospreay, Bryan Danielson, MJF, and Swerve Strickland. I think that would be a really great match. And I also say that Swerve versus Jack Perry at All Out would be a great match. Imagine the Chicago crowd. And then you have Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland at Wrestle Dream in Seattle, Washington. And that could be a really great match as well. So I think that there's other great matches that you can have with Swerve. And the problem is that, as I said, he's not lived up to expectations. More people know who Swerve Strickland is than Will Ospreay. And then, as we've all said, what makes a better wrestler? Is it Will Ospreay doing all these tour de force moves and he's almost killed himself in a couple of matches, or him and Bryan Danielson? We've already seen that. So what would really happen if you kind of focused more on Swerve, who is a talker, who understands an American audience a lot better, who actually has a fan base from WWE and other places? Imagine there's so many more matches that he can have, really, and that's like the next thing. I think the first thing really is that he's not been given the best opportunity as a champion. The second thing is that there are more matches you can get out of Swerve. The third thing, and I know this is controversial, is people can say that it's racist. They're like, okay, well, he's a transitional black man champion. He faced mid-carder guys, really. You look at Swerve versus Samoa Joe, or I think it was Samoa Joe versus Swerve and Adam Page, or other people that were in the upper echelon. The first, Swerve has fought Brian Cage. He's fought Kyle Fletcher, if I'm right, and he's also fought Christian Cage and a couple of people who are mid-card people. He's never had a match with a main event talent. He's actually the first main event talent he's actually facing is Will Ospreay. And the other good thing about Will Ospreay, if I'm correct, is that he has an undefeated streak. So beating Will Ospreay is a bigger deal. But he's not. If you did Bryan Danielson versus Swerve, or MJF versus Swerve, or Adam Copeland versus Swerve, or a real champion, that would actually be better for Swerve. So a lot of people can say, "Oh, that's racist," because you're not giving you're propping up as him. He's propping himself, and other people propping him up as the first black champion. But it's kind of like what Randy Marsh did to Token's dad, where you're just taking a picture with the black guy and saying, it's great that I put a title on the black guy. It's more about representation than presentation. So there could be a lot of people up in arms with that. The next thing is that it will subvert expectations. A lot of people think that Ospreay is going to beat Swerve, and then they also think there's going to be a rematch at a Wembley Stadium where Ospreay may lose at Forbidden Door, and then you're going to have a rematch where Ospreay gains the title. So I do think that, with that said, is that if that does happen, that would be bad as well, really, because you shouldn't be having rematches. One thing that was really bad about MJF versus Adam Cole is that they had a 30-minute match in Washington, D.C. Now you're trying to main event Wembley Stadium with that. That's very disrespectful. And then the other thing, too, if you do Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay at Wembley Stadium, that would be a bad match as well, because you did that at Dynasty, so you're repeating matches. Unless they have such new offense, or you say, okay, now it's 60 minutes, they're going to fight. You have to do something bigger and different. But it would kind of avoid, repeat Will Ospreay matches. I think maybe my other thing is that honestly, Ospreay really needs to turn heel. So the big problem is that if he becomes champion, maybe they're going to keep him as this ultimate babyface in AEW, and he's going to feel more like a Roman Reigns when Roman Reigns was a babyface before he became heel, where it's going to be like, okay, you're propped up really.